You hear the phrase 9/11, and it automatically invokes certain images and emotions: terror, fear, a loss of innocence, a period of mourning, and the start of a horrifying new world order. The mere mention of the phrase 9/11 has become synonymous with a slew of emotions no other date can generate. But what if 9/11 was 226? On February 26, 1993, a truck bomb exploded in the North Tower of the World Trade Center parking garage. It killed 6, injured more than 1,000, and foreshadowed the larger attacks of 9/11. That being said, the goal of the terrorists behind the 1993 attack wasn't to cause some damage. It was to knock the North Tower into the South Tower during the height of the workday. The plan failed. Had it been successful, the death toll and destruction would have dwarfed the ultimate result of the attacks of September 11th. However, it came too close, far too close, to succeeding. Here's that story. This man, Ramzi Yousef, was the mastermind of the attacks. Like many terrorists, Yousef came from an upper-class background. He was born in Kuwait, studied electrical engineering, and attended numerous foreign universities, including the prestigious Oxford in England. Yousef would move to Pakistan in 1992, where he would connect with other terrorists, learn bomb making, and begin a series of ambitious plans to execute terrorist attacks. One such plot, the destruction of the World Trade Center, symbol of American capitalism. Yousef's plan was simple. He would construct a deadly bomb, park it in a trunk, delivering it to the North Tower of the World Trade Center. From there, he'd set the fuse, leave the building, and wait. Yousef's motivation behind the attacks is probably something that you've heard before. He would mail letters to New York City newspapers just before the attacks, calling for the United States to end aid to Israel, end diplomatic relations with the country, and pledge not to meddle in the internal affairs of any other Middle Eastern country. Good thing things have changed. Anyway, on Friday, February 26th, Yousef and Ayad Ismaili drove a rented Ryder van to the World Trade Center. They parked in the underground garage of the North Tower, leaving the car on level B2. Yousef ignited the 20-foot fuse, and he and Ismaili left the building. 12 minutes later, the bomb exploded. This bomb was powerful. It exploded with 150,000 pounds of pressure per square inch and created a 100-foot hole in 4 levels of the North Tower's parking garage. Power was immediately cut to the North Tower, plunging tens of thousands of people into darkness and leaving dozens stuck in elevators, including a class of kindergartners who spent 5 hours stuck in an elevator. Now, for those of you who remember the news reports from this time or who grew up in the area, the images that emerged were iconic and an eerie flash forward of what was to come. Smoke poured from windows, and people stumbled out into the streets, where paramedics whisked the injured away into waiting ambulances. City streets were covered with broken glass, flashing sirens. In the end, 6 people and an unborn baby were killed. 5 were employees of the New York Port Authority, 4 of whom were in a room that was destroyed by a 3,000-pound steel beam, and a businessman who was in the parking garage. About 1,300 people were wounded. Both towers were temporarily closed, with the South Tower reopening a few weeks later and the North Tower not reopening until April, over a month later. A slew of new security measures, including identification badges, surveillance cameras, and security barriers, were added. Other security measures, including tenants improving their own internal security and evacuation procedures, proved critical 8 years later when the towers were destroyed. February 26 was terrible and scarring. It changed New York. That being said, it could have been so much worse. Yousef was not satisfied with the deaths of only 6 people. The man was a monster. He wanted smoke to remain in the building to slowly kill its victims. Yousef would tell associates that his plan was not a bombing, but a mass murder. As was noted at his trial, Yousef wanted to crash one tower into the other, ultimately killing hundreds of thousands. The bomb was placed directly below the Vista Hotel, the hotel that you see between the North and South Tower. The hotel, in fact, was so damaged that a collapse of it was distinctly possible. Broadly speaking, the bomb caused $300 million in property damage. It damaged the water system of the complex so badly that 2 million gallons of water leaked. It caused major damage to the building's electrical system, many wires of which had to be cut in order to prevent the accidental electrocution of people in the building, including rescuers. Now, to be clear, the odds of one tower knocking over the other like a domino would have defied the laws of physics. But what else do you expect from a guy whose fellow conspirators were so dumb that they actually tried to get the deposit back for the van they blew up? Yeah, that actually happened. Still, what was within the realm of possibility was the complete destruction of the North Tower. While doubtful, it's a plan that was at least physically possible. And had Yousef had a stronger bomb, or placed his bomb at a more vulnerable location, it could have happened. Let's go back to September 11th for a moment. The attack, of course, was a catastrophe. Roughly 1,600 people died in the North Tower, with approximately 1,000 dying in the South Tower. However, numerous factors contributed to that day not being even worse. This includes the location that the planes hit, the time of day that the attacks occurred, practice security procedures, and the fact that there was enough time for people to evacuate both buildings. None of these factors would have been present if the 226 attack had been successful. The bombing would have taken out the building from the bottom up, leaving little to no time for people to evacuate. The bombing occurred at noon, so while some people were certainly out to lunch, the building was almost certainly more full that day, at that time, than it was at 8:46 a.m. on September 11th, 2001. In other words, had the Yousef bombing been successful, it could have killed tens of thousands. Yousef's involvement in terrorism didn't end in 1993. He would fail in his efforts to assassinate the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto, and bomb Philippine Airlines Flight 434, which killed one. He would be implicated in numerous other plots before being captured by the FBI in 1997. He was found guilty for his efforts in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and sentenced to life plus 240 years in prison. He remains in maximum security prison at ADX Florence in Colorado. Thankfully, Yousef's plan failed. Unfortunately, as we all know, it was a foreshadowing of things to come. For example, Ramzi Yousef's uncle is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man who is known as the architect and chief planner of the 9/11 attacks. And that is it for this edition of Almost Something. If you like this content, please click the subscribe button, and please do like this video. It actually does make a difference. We'll have more videos out shortly, and I'm absolutely looking forward to recording more for you again. For now, as always, have a wonderful day. Don't let there be any almost in your life. See you soon.